So last week we talked about types of qualitative data. We said that qualitative data can exist in many forms. It could be in the form of text, it could be in the form of documents, interview transcripts, images, videos, field notes of observations. All of these are forms of qualitative data that can be analyzed. Okay. The qualitative researcher is like a librarian, so they have to organize everything properly, right? So everything needs to be arranged with a proper name. So when you go back to it, you can easily find it. Okay. Then we started talking about qualitative data analysis. What does a researcher do in qualitative data analysis? The researcher needs to be able to describe and portray and summarize and interpret and discover patterns. And I said that this part about discovering patterns is very important in qualitative research. So whenever you see a pattern in your data, you can take it out as a theme and you can describe it. Okay. What do you need to do once you have all your data? So you decided that you are interested in teachers' perceptions about teaching in large classes, teaching literature in large classes. So you did interviews with 10 teachers, and now you've got those 10 transcripts. You wrote the audio, and now you've got the transcript. So what do you do now? What's your way forward? The way forward would be to know your data, read your data, transcribe it, be very familiar with it. So you need to become very, very familiar with your data. You should know all your data, okay? While you're reading it, while you're transcribing it, you can write small notes to yourself. You can write these memos, and these memos will help you later in your analysis, okay? And then you can start coding your data. I hope all of you remember what's coding. Coding is like naming the data. You start to give topics to your whole data so you can organize it better, okay? So once you start coding, that's the beginning of your analysis, okay? That's probably the most essential part of your analysis. You start coding your data and you keep coding and recoding and revising your codes until you're satisfied with it, okay? It's very subjective process, so everybody codes very differently. So what normally researchers do is they try and get feedback on their coding from other people, so their supervisors, and they also give a small part of their data to somebody with the list of codes so that they can code as well to see if their codes match. Okay, this is called inter-rater reliability. Okay, I'll write it down in the chat. It's inter-rater reliability. Okay, so to increase the worthiness of our data, the trustworthiness of our data, we ensure that we are doing it in a proper manner, and that is why we ask somebody else to do it as well with us. Okay. Memos, what are memos? Memos are like little post-it notes that you put on your data, just reminders to yourself that you have to do these things. Okay. Or sometimes you notice something, a participant smiles sarcastically, you write that down. So these are just notes, reminders, comments that you want to leave on your data. So these can be your initial thoughts of analysis, all right? So these can be some initial thoughts that you can use in your analysis later. So after this, we talked about the coding process. I hope that all of you remember what coding is. Is coding clear to everybody? Do we all know what coding is? Quick responses in the chat, please. Imran says yes. What about everybody else? Okay. Athazas, was coding clear? Anybody to whom coding was not clear? Khadija, how about you? Ikra? Okay. Khadija and Ikra, I haven't heard from you still. All right. Can I ask somebody else to repeat it, please? So since I have described it in many words, maybe somebody else can repeat it more clearly. Halimat, I'll describe internet reliability. Halimat, could you turn on your mic and explain coding? Would that be possible? Or anybody else, whoever wants to explain. Atazaz, Imran, Halimat, Azka, anybody? Habiba? It's clear to everybody, so you should be able to explain it. Okay, that's fine, Imran. Atazaz, how about you? Okay, that's fine, Atazaz, no problem. All right, I'll explain it. Don't worry. Where are you where there are animals? Okay, all right. So coding is a process where we name our data, we give topics to our data, okay? So say for example, here in this transcript, the interviewer is talking about teaching strategies. So the respondent, which was me, has said that I try to incorporate all kind of teaching strategies. I would usually apply in any class. I try to use group activities, lectures, and she mentions what else? Yeah, group work and lecture as well as all other kinds of activities. So what I've done is I have coded it as mixed strategies. And I have said that this is group discussion, lecture, sometimes roles, pair work, individual reading task. All of these have been mentioned in the code. Here again, you can see that the question is asked, do you think there are any positive sides? And then she says that yes, so many students, everybody's answers are different. We get different opinions and different perspectives. So I have coded it as variety of ideas in large classes. So codes are like names to your data, topics to your data, headings you can call it. So you're trying to um, organize your data in a bit better manner. So once you have all the headings on each transcript, um, you would be able to see where these codes come. So how many people talk about mixed strategies, how many people talk about variety of ideas, and then you can write about it in your findings. Okay. Nimra has said it's about coding our data. We have a lot of data. All the main key points that we have in data, we name that data. Usman is saying that coding is adding our themes or simply categorizing our data. Okay. Who was it that asked the question? Is it clear to you now? Was it Zufsha? Yeah, Zufsha, is it clear now? Okay, that's great. Now, we also talked about, Halimat, you were saying inter-rater reliability. So what we do is when we are doing research, we try to ensure that our data and our analysis is reliable and free from bias, okay? So our analysis and our data need to be something that everybody, if they do the same, what can I say, the same kind of research, they would be able to come up with the similar results. So our data needs to be reliable. Okay, our data and our analysis methods, both of them need to be reliable. So what we try to do is um, we give some of our data to somebody else for analysis. So say, for example, if I gave this interview transcript, this bit of my interview transcript to you, and gave you a list of codes and I asked you to code them. And if you came up with the same codes as these, then that means my data and my analysis methods are reliable. Okay, does that make sense, Aliman? It's like checking your data with somebody else. Okay, so there's another person who is rating your data, who is analyzing your data. So you're checking it against them. Okay, so you're checking that you've come up with the same results. Okay, that's great. You can make concept maps in your data. That's also a possibility. These concept maps help you analyze your data. Sometimes people work better with graphs and figures and visual analysis methods. And some people work better with words. So depends on your preference. So it's up to you which one you want to use. Okay. So you can make concept maps if they make you feel comfortable. Then we talked about this thematic analysis method, which I think is very useful. And if you decide to collect data in your study, if you decide that you're going to use qualitative research in your study, then you can use this model. This model basically talks about 6 steps, which I think can easily be 4 steps. So the first step is familiarizing yourself with your data. You transcribe your data, you read your data, you become very, very familiar with your data. Then the second one is generating initial codes. So you start coding your data. You should start coding your data. Though your mic is turned on, could you please? You start generating your initial codes. You name all your data, and then you start looking for patterns in your data. Any theme. What is it that you want to pick out from that data and report in your discussion, okay, in your analysis? What's though I can't seem to be able to turn off your mic. Is that better, Abiba? Just a second. All right, I think that's fine now. Right. Okay, so so once you have all your codes, you organize your codes, and you look at all the different data bits under each code. So how many people have talked about mixed strategies? How many people have talked about variety of ideas? You need to um, take a look at that, and you will need to report on that. Okay, so in today's class, we're trying to go and do that with the data that you guys collected. All right, we are going to try and write about the different themes that have emerged from our data. You will review those themes, you will go through your whole data, you will check if your themes are correct, if your patterns are correct, then you will define and name them, give them a heading, and then you will write your report. So that's what you're supposed to do. Now, I had given you a Google document in which I had asked you to put your data. Have you all done that? This one. All right, if you have not done it, please do it right now, okay? If you've not already done it, please do it right now. We've got 16 responses here. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to all read this data and find out what the data is trying to say. All right. So what we have done is we've got our data, we've transcribed our data, and we are all done with the coding process. So since this was a class activity, I just established 4 codes. Otherwise, we have larger number of codes. So what we are going to do now is we are going to read the data under the codes and see if we can come up with any themes. Okay, so let's all read the data and see if you can come up with any themes. I'll put the link to the document in your chat so you can open it on your screens if you want. Otherwise, you can just use this screen which I am showing you. Okay. All right. Sorry, I've just sent it to one person. Okay. So this is a link to the Google Doc. You can all open it, and otherwise you can just see this document which I have opened. I can see that there are people emerging here, so please start reading this document. We're not going to make any changes anymore. Just let's read the data. All right, so what do we see in our data? How many people are talking about personal interest? How many are talking about family choice? What is going on? Do you see any pattern, any theme, anything that you would like to report in the findings? How many people are talking about job opportunities? Majority has chosen it as a choice. So there are 10 responses. 10 people have done it out of their own choice. 5 people have done it out of family's choice. And 2 people have done it for job interests. Yeah, is that right? Okay. Personal interest has more percentage. All right. Personal interest in majority. So when we are writing our findings, we will say that in your findings, you report your data, all right? You present your data. And in the discussion, you analyze your data, you interpret your data, So the difference between findings and discussion is findings, you present your data, you directly quote from your data, you say things as they are in your data, okay? And in the discussion, you analyze it, you interpret it, and you try and connect it with your literature, okay? So whatever literature review you had done, you try to combine that in with your data in your discussion, okay? So findings, um, findings and discussion both are part of your analysis, and you would be writing about your data in your findings, and you will be interpreting your data in the light of your literature in your discussion, okay? So is that clear what we have to do after our analysis? After our analysis, we have to write our findings report your data, present your data. So in the findings section, you would say that 17 final year students responded to the question about their choice of English literature as a major. Um, the choices, the reasons could be divided under three main categories, including career opportunities, personal interest, and family choice. Okay. Majority of the participants, of the respondents, chose the subject themselves. However, 5 had been told to do so by their family. 2 participants had looked into, had chosen because of career options. Okay. As one of them said, we can also put our data here. As one of them said, and I can copy paste from here, it was my brother who chose this field for me. Okay, so this is how we write our findings. You report on whatever your data says, you can quote from your data, and you have to cover everything that your data has presented to you, okay? So no analysis or interpretation is needed at this stage. At this stage, you're going to only present what your data says. So quote from your data, write from your data, and basically summarize everything that is given in the data. Does that make sense? Is that clear how we write findings? Okay, Aisha and Kashyap, please keep your questions and I'll answer them later, okay? All right, so what we need to do in discussion now is we need to interpret it. We need to give explanations for our data. So why is it that people have chosen their majors themselves? Why is it that their family have influenced it? And why is it only 2 people who have thought of career options. So maybe you have something about it in your data, in your literature review as well. You can connect to that. Right now, we don't have literature review, so we are going to make it up. Okay. So say for example, as majority of the students chose their major because of their own, because of their personal interest, it can be seen that young people are sure about their interests and can choose their um, their careers and paths themselves. However, influence of family can still be seen as 5 out of 17 respondents chose the subject due to their families. This can be an influence of the collectivist culture as opposed to individualist that these participants belong to. Okay, and then you can give reference here to Tilleman 2020. Okay, what I'm doing here is I'm writing the discussion, Halimat. So what I'm doing here is I am interpreting the data with reference to my literature review. Okay, I'm trying to interpret the data that I have received with reference to the literature that I have got. Okay. I can also analyze the two participants. It is evident that career counseling is minimal in our schools and colleges, as there are only 2 out of 17 people who thought about job opportunities while choosing their major. And then here I can also give reference of any literature that I have read as discussed by Adams 2017. Okay. So whatever you've discussed in your literature review, you're bringing that into your discussion, and you are also analyzing your data. Okay. So you are interpreting your data, you're interpreting your findings with reference to literature review. Okay, does that make sense? How we will write our discussion? So in the findings, I said family choice is important to the participants, but personal interest is important, and only 2 have talked about career options. And I gave example from that data. In the discussion, I explained why individual choice was important, why family's influence was important, and I also commented on why only 2 people have talked about job opportunities. So I am interpreting everything. Okay, I am giving reasons for it, I'm giving explanation for it, and I am trying to connect it with my literature review that I had done before. Does that make sense? Kashaf and Aisha, could you ask your questions now? Could you please write it in different words so that I can actually understand what you're trying to ask. All right, so this is Kashyap and Aisha. I'm still waiting for your questions, okay? So please put them in the chat again with different words so that I can understand what you're trying to ask. All right, so this is how we analyze our data. The point of this exercise was to make you understand the whole process of data analysis and how exactly will you write it. You need to be familiar with that as well, okay? Now, Imran's asking the question, do we need to incorporate coding in the research paper or it is for only the researcher's convenience? We do give a table sometimes in the findings to show our coding, okay? Um, I can I can actually show you the findings I had written in my thesis. Let me see if I can open it. Sometimes we give the coding in our study, and at other times we do not. So it depends on you whether you think it's essential for the readers to look at the coding. Will the coding explain your data better to the readers? If you think so, then you will show it to them in your findings. If you think that it wouldn't be useful, then you don't need to add it. Okay, but basically, yes, it's for the researcher's convenience. Let me show you. So I took readers' perceptions of identity in my thesis, right? So I presented that in my findings by saying that the participants were asked to express their views on identity. They defined their own identity. You can see that, right? Yeah. So they defined their own identity and then talked about issues relevant to identity in society. An overview of the issues of participants talked about is given in table 5.2. So in table 5.2, I have given the codes. So I have given whatever codes I had. This is the main code and these are the subcodes of that. And these many people talked about it this many times. Okay. So I have given codes in my data and then I have explained it. So I didn't need a separate heading for the codes, but what I have done is I have given a table for the codes and then I have explained those codes in my text of the findings. Okay, does that make sense? Imran, does that answer your question? Okay, let me explain again. So what I've done is I collected data about participants' perceptions of identity. Okay. I wrote this in my findings. So my participants talked about different things in relation to identity, and I wanted to explain that in my findings section. What I've done is I have given a table of my codes. So in order to explain what they talked about with reference to identity, I have given this table. Sorry. I've given this table which shows that they talked about ethnic issues, they talked about caste issues, they talked about religious issues, and they talked about no awareness of identity issues before reading of literature. While defining their personal identity, they talked about these five themes, yes. So I have given my codes. These are my codes which I have given. And I am saying that these many people, sources means the number of participants, and references means the number of times they mentioned it. Okay. So I'm giving these numbers as well to give the reader a sense of how many people talked about it, the weightage of that data. And then I explain these codes in the paragraphs. All right. So in my findings, yes, I have given the codes as well as an explanation of the codes, which helps the reader understand what was going on in my data. Okay. All right. So I hope that now it's clear how we write our findings and how we analyze our data. We need to. So how exactly will you do it? Whether there are many ways of doing it um, in your data while you're analyzing it. You could use highlighters for different codes. If you have it on paper, if you've written it on your registers or notebooks, you can highlight it in different colors. Okay. So say for example, in this transcript, green is for personal life, yellow is for green general election, and blue is the day job. Okay. Kashaf, is it not clear? What's the difference between codes, findings, and discussion? Is it still not clear? So codes are the names that you give to your data. Findings is when you start writing about those codes, and discussion is when you interpret it. Okay. So codes are the titles that you give to your data. And so when you're coding your data, you can do it in a number of ways. You can do it through highlighters. Okay. Like this here on the screen. Sometimes we do it in Microsoft Word as well. Sometimes we do it through software. Okay, so it's very it depends on how much data you have. What's the problem with highlighters is what if you want to code the same piece of text in two or more ways? So you would be using a lot of paper, and what if you have 35 codes? How many colors are you going to find out? Okay, so it's not always possible to to highlight in different colors for all the codes, because you might have a lot of codes. Okay, sometimes people cut and paste data on different charts, right? It's so for the day job, you have three different codes under it. For general election, you have three different codes, three different data scripts. But this is difficult. So how many are you going to cut and paste? It's going to take a lot of time, right? So you can do multiple coding here. You can compile it, but it's messy and sticky, and it loses the context, and it's not readily searchable. Okay. Um, yes, Kashif, that's right. So there could be a solution. You could do it in Microsoft Word. You can use the highlight function. You can use the comment function. You can cut and paste without scissors and glue, so you can do it as many times. You can search for a word or phrase, so it's easily searchable. But there are still problems with Word, because obviously Microsoft Word is not designed for coding. There are different purposes of Microsoft Word, and it was not designed for coding. So obviously there are going to be some problems with it. Um, you can't have two or more colors, but you can obviously put it in the comment box, so you can solve that. Um, it's still time consuming, um, and you can't easily search for codes in context. Okay, so there are some problems with Word, but Word is really useful for coding. I have done a lot of coding on Microsoft Word, and it's completely all right. It's very doable, and um, you can easily highlight and comment on the text. So I will advise you, if you're using qualitative data in your research, then please do it on Microsoft Word, because that would be very useful for you, because there are a number of things that you can do in Word, and it will be very easy for you to organize it. And you wouldn't have a lot of data. It's not like a PhD that you have so much data. So it will be manageable in Word, even though it's time consuming. Okay. There are some softwares. There are some computer softwares for qualitative data analysis. Like in my PhD, I used NVivo. Um, uh, this stands for Computer Assisted Qualitative Data Analysis. Um, it's very common to analyze large volumes of qualitative data in softwares like NVivo or Atlas D. They are designed specifically for analysis of qualitative data. You can analyze text, audio, video, still pictures, everything in the um, in a software. I concentrate on text. I do not talk about others. So what applications are there? NVivo is there. Atlas D is there. What happens in these softwares is that you can it's designed specifically for coding. All right, so you can you have a list of codes there. If you click on it, every data set that is under that code comes in, and you can easily connect it. All right. So it's very easy for people to be able to organize their data in qualitative data analysis software. Okay. um, However, it's not like a quantitative data analysis software. It doesn't do the analysis for you. Okay. What it does is organize your analysis. So you're the one who's going to create the codes. You're the one who is going to assign codes to the data. It just helps you organize. So NVivo and Atlas D, they're just good organizers. They're very good organizers for qualitative data. They're designed specifically for qualitative data. Okay. There are others as well, which I have never seen or used. MEX-QDA, Ethnograph, HyperResearch, N6, Ellen. Um, for NVivo, you get a 14-day free trial. So that's all you can get for free. Otherwise, you have to pay for it. So I don't recommend it at this stage, but this is something that you should know about in case you go on to your MPhils and PhDs and you want to use it. Then there are these softwares. However, they're not free, so you don't need to buy them or anything at this stage. Okay. These are further reading and resources. Please go through them in your own time. Right now, I would like all of you to please give me please fill the feedback forms, okay? I want all of you to fill the feedback forms. I can copy paste them again. And if you have any questions, you can ask now. Any questions about qualitative data analysis, about the softwares and anything that we have discussed in today's class, you can ask now. Okay, otherwise please fill the feedback form. I have pasted the link again for the feedback form. That one is for research class, and I'm pasting one for fiction as well. Could you please start giving me feedback on this? Okay, there are 50 people in the class, so I should have 50 responses. Okay, yes, I'll do that, Aisha. I'll give you, I'll talk about that. Aisha's asking, what kind of questions will you give in exam? I'll give you 5 minutes to fill the feedback form, and then we'll talk about questions in exam, okay? If you have any other questions, you can write in the chat. Otherwise, please fill the forms, and then we'll talk about exams. Okay, I can see that people are filling them. I've got 12 responses on research and 5 on fiction. Please go ahead and fill the forms while I look at the feedback. There is no name on the answers given. All I can see, I can show you, all I can see is this, okay? So I can see 9 responses and I can see the comments that you've given. I cannot see who has said what, okay? So this is all I can see, all right? So please be honest in your reviews, okay? Okay, that's great, that's. I'll wait a couple more minutes for everybody to fill in and then we'll talk about the exams, okay? Somebody is saying I need to find out a way to extract response from the students. Um, suggest some ways, please. How can I extract more response from the students? By putting some marks on answers. Ooh, Etazaz is saying that. Etazaz has written to me in a direct message, but I'm telling you all, he's suggesting that I give you marks for your answers for your class performance. How's that? Do you agree? Do you think it's more difficult to maintain? No, yeah, I am not going to do it. But it's very interesting. We could we could do that for one class, and we could see how many more people participate. Um, I sometimes do that. I do take random names from the list of participants in the class sometimes, but most of the times they don't respond. Like I took Khadija and Ikra's name today, but they they didn't write anything. Yeah, give them a 0 at the class. How about that? And do you think you get lazier in online classes, or you got lazier in physical classes? Is there, can you do a comparison? Like some people have written that they feel they've switched off after some time in online class. Their concentration is very low. Do you think it's the same in physical classes, or is it better in physical classes? Those who don't want, don't assign them marks, assign them tasks for next week to come prepared. Um, they are not responding, Habiba. How do I give them tasks? It's easy in online. I've started speaking. It's hard to raise hands in physical class otherwise. That's an excellent point. I sometimes feel that a lot of people who wouldn't talk in physical classes talk in the chat in online classes because it's easier. It's more comfortable. Um, I think that many people feel more comfortable in Bhageshwari's. Okay, I'm not going to read it out. But yeah, sometimes people get very lethargic and lazy. And some people have written that there's a lot of disturbance. People start knocking on the door in the house. And uh, Khadija, why were you unable to listen? I was talking to you for a long time, and it's only now that you've responded. I'm glad you've responded, but very late. Okay. Um, all right. So those of you who are filling the feedback, please get it done. Now we're going to talk about yes, recorded lectures. I think is a very good benefit of online classes. You don't get that in physical classes. Okay, so let's see, what kind of questions do I give in exam regarding research methods, okay? Say, for example, what are the steps of thematic analysis according to Braun and Clark? Explain with an example, okay? This could be a possible question in your exams. That's fine, Khadija, no problem. All right, let's take a look at the question. So this could be a possible question in your exams. Your exams are starting from 5th July, so high time that we start thinking about it. We've got 3 topics left, so we'll be done by that time. Say, for example, if I ask this question, I want you to give me details of each of the 6 steps of thematic analysis. So what you would give is you would give 6 steps of the process, the table that we discussed, and you would give an example that you would explain in all 6 steps. Okay. Say, for example, if you're saying, I did 10 interviews with teachers on teaching literature online. Then I coded codes such as mixed strategies, group discussion, and varied views were created. This is the second step. I saw patterns in the data. Experienced teachers were more reluctant to use technology. Okay, like this, you are explaining the same research topic through those 6 steps. Okay, so you're giving an explanation of those 6 steps in all of this. Okay, so this is the first step, familiarize yourself. This is the second one, this is the third one, and so on. You will explain them, explain the steps, and give an example. Okay. Another thing that I would like to highlight here is that I do not want you to give details of things that I have not asked. So if I am asking about thematic analysis according to Braun and Clark, please only stick to that. Don't start with what is qualitative data analysis. The qualitative researcher needs to work as a librarian. Don't start explaining everything to me, all right? Whatever I'm asking, I just need the answer to that. Doesn't matter if it's brief, okay? If you answer this and you answer all parts of the question, that's good enough. Okay, for reference, you can refer to Cohen's book, you can refer to Bryman's book, Creswell, and I think I have uploaded Bryman and Cohen to your book, to your group. I will upload Creswell as well. Okay, so there are a number of research methods books that you could refer to. We have got Cohen, and we've got Cohen and colleagues. Sorry. Cohen, we have got Bryman, and we've got Creswell. Okay, these are the 3 writers whose books of research methods are very reliable, and you can refer to them in your exams. Let's take a look at another question. Okay, say for example, if I ask you write a research question and methodology for the following topic. Perceptions of feminism in a doll's house. Okay, if this is the question, do you think you can answer it? How will you answer it? If I give you this research question, would you be able to answer it? Yeah, okay. So what you have to do here is you have to create a research question, okay? What you have to do is you have to create a research question, yes, and then you will say what research design you will follow. So for research question, you can create what are the undergraduate students' perceptions regarding feminism in Ibsen's A Doll's House. Okay, this is your question. Methodology, you give the heading of methodology and you explain that you will be using a qualitative research design. You will do interviews with final year undergraduate students. Okay, you'll write it in a paragraph form. I'm just doing it quickly. Okay, you will interview semi-structured interviews with 7 participants and analyze it through thematic analysis by Braun and Clark. Okay, 2006. So if you say that, that is enough for this question. Okay, so that's all you need to answer in this question. Yes, you can use reader response theory. What kind of research method should you follow in the exam? That's completely up to you. Whichever research method you feel is appropriate for this research. So, research on perceptions will necessarily need to be done through qualitative methods. And if the topic was presentation, say for example, if I had given you the topic presentation of feminism in a doll's house, then this would be a completely different research because this would be textual and non-empirical. Okay, then you will need to define that you will take Virginia Woolf's model or anybody else's model of feminism, and then you will give its elements. Okay, social and financial rights of women. Okay, so depending on the topic, um, you will need to explain the methodology. And if you give references from Cohen or Bryman or Creswell, that will be an additional plus point for you. Okay. Um, yes, you are not going to do the research. You're not going to write the analysis. You're just going to write the technique that you will be using, the methodology that you will be using in your research. Okay. So we're not concerned with you trying to do the research here, but I'm just concerned in whether you know how you will do the research. Just tell me how you will do it. Okay. If you give references, that's always a plus point. If you're able to quote from methodological literature, that's a very good plus point for you, and it will help you get better marks. Okay. If I'm asking for an example, please do give an example. If I'm asking for a reference, please do give a reference. But references, even if they're not asked and you give, that's a plus point. Okay. Any other questions about exams? Suitable way of referencing. Referencing should be through APA style. Temur, is it okay if I've put them in the Google Drive folder? Can you open them? I have I have already done that. Okay. Um, Habiba, I'll answer that question in the next class. Okay. Um, Temur, it's going to be easy on Google Drive as well. If you open this folder, all the recordings and all the PPTs are there. So hopefully you can open them. I was trying to upload it on the LMS as well, but I couldn't. There was some problem with the LMS, so I've done it on the Google Drive. Okay. Um, all right. Do we have any other questions regarding exams? Um, um, Dua, you sent it later than everybody else. That is why I couldn't respond. But now that you've done it, it's okay. I'll take a look and I'll respond to it. Okay. All right. Those of you who have still not filled the responses to the course evaluations, please do that. I will put my definitely. I'm giving you my email, Kashaf. Kashaf is asking for my email. That's why I've written it in your chat. Okay. Um, if you have any other questions, you can ask. Otherwise, we'll end the class. Okay. Thank you. In the next class, we are going to discuss writing a research proposal, and I need one presenter for qualitative data analysis, somebody who can recap qualitative data analysis for us in the next class. Is there anybody who can volunteer for that? I will not ask, Temur, do you want to present? Okay, Temur will present. Nimra, you can present next time, please. Okay, so Temur will do qualitative data analysis presentation, and then we'll talk about writing a research proposal. There was another question in the chat. Will there be a question about literature review? No, there wouldn't be a question about question to write a literature review. I can ask you how to do a literature review, but I'm not going to ask you to write a literature review because obviously you don't have the material there at that point. So you're not allowed to use your phones or your computers in the exam. So there wouldn't be a question about writing a literature review, but there can be a question about how to write a literature review. Okay. Outline for exams is the same that we have already given you. Okay. I think I've already given you the outline, but I'll share it again in the next class. Okay. There is a specific outline for exams, which I can share with you in the next class. Okay. Anything else?